Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Positive Voice Podcast. I am your host, Coach Chef Kim, and this is going to be part two to last week's episode on core values. So, one of the things that I wanted to focus on is going a little bit deeper with core values and how it shapes your business as you are growing as an entrepreneur. So, on the last episode of the podcast, we talked about clarifying your why to guide your business decisions, um, building a company culture based around core values. So, honesty, empathy, timeliness. Like, what are the things that are important to you that you also expect the people who you employ to carry as characteristics of themselves, as core values for themselves, that will help you in your hiring process. As someone who worked in retail for 14 years as a store manager and had to hire people, if I had known then what I know now about people, about personality styles, um, core values would have been probably one of the top things that would guide how we were able to show up, right? And so um that's just that's just a little tip from me to you. And then lastly, we talked about aligning your values with your long-term vision for sustainable growth. And that is what led us to a part two. So long-term sustainable growth, we'll do two things. One, I'm sorry, using your core values for long term growth. We'll do two things. Number one, it keeps you true to who you are. And number two, it's going to enhance your intuition. So let's get into what that looks like and how you make these things work for you. So, number one, set your goals in 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals. But these goals should be in alignment with where you are. They should be in alignment with your current core values. So I like to start at 5. This is just my own personal process. I like to start at 5 years. And so what that will look like is if I were to do this right now, if I were to set new goals for 5 years out, this is 2024. So in the year 2029, I will be 49 years old. Okay. So 5 years out, I will be 49, which means I'm gearing up for my 50th birthday, which means I'm a certain type of girl. Okay. Certain type of woman here. And so my 49th rotation around the sun, my expectation is that I can travel whenever I want to, that I have unlimited financial resources, that I have traveled the world, that I am well read, that I am a professor or have already been a professor and moved on from that career, that I have not only published self help books, but I've also moved into the romance genre under a different name, that I am a keynote speaker who is paid to travel all over the world and bring inspiration and hope and to disrupt the limiting beliefs that hold women back. That I am known for this, that I have been on talk shows and podcasts, and, um, there's a certain level of notoriety. There's a certain level of celebrity, shall we say, that comes with that version of me. Okay. Um, I have real estate. I own more than one home. Um, my children are financially well off. The children connected to me are also financially well off. It doesn't mean that they are mine. I imagine that by that point, I probably started fostering, and that I use that opportunity to change the lives of those young people, financially, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, right? The women that I surround myself around are all go getters. They are all anchored in the core values that we collectively share, that they are movers and shakers in the world, that when you see us coming, you part the way, right? Like it's giving Beyonce. Maybe not on Beyonce's level, might not have Beyonce's money, but our moves are very much so like, yeah, that totally makes sense for that Virgo to be doing that, right? So that's 5 years out. 3 years out means that I only have 2 years to hit that, right? So by that point, that means if I haven't started investing in real estate yet, 3 years out, I'm investing in real estate. It means I've at least gotten my first property, if not my second. It means that um, my financial team has been put together, that we have the financial managers that we need to have in place, that I have surrounded myself with people in higher education who are either looking for me to be a professor or I'm consulting, and then that turns into that, right? That there's a certain way that I take care of myself. There's a certain way that I show up, that there are some clear habits that have been formed over the past years that put me at this place, that have set me up in direct alignment with that 5 year plan. And so then if I bring it down one more time, a year from now, so that means as we move through the 44th year, moving into the 45th, it means that I am making sure that I am taking personal financial classes right now. It means that I am working on my health physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It means that I am training and educating myself more on how to be a 6, 7, 8 figure earner as a coach. I am learning how to build a multi-million-dollar corporation right now that's going to serve me in 5 years. It means that the seed has already been planted for me wanting to write romance novels under a pseudonym. It means that I've already outlined the self-help book that's going to be used in order to book me more speaking gigs, which is going to make me a well-renowned keynote speaker, which will be paying me dividends over and over and over again over the next 5 years. So see how I started with a 5 year goal, is that this is who I am at 49, preparing to turn 50 a year from now, a year from that point. And I broke down where I needed to be in 3 years and then where I need to be in a year. So in a year, there are some things I need to be doing. So let's talk about what that looks like for real. Okay. So at this point, what we are doing now is reverse engineering the long-term goals by making them smaller, making them manageable, and figuring out what needs to become a habit, so that it is something that I do not stray from. So at the top of 2024, I did 3 days in the gym for 10 minutes. That was my habit that I had to start, right? And whenever I feel like I've fallen off the bandwagon, that is the habit that we go back to. 3 days in the gym for 10 minutes. It took me several months to get to the point where I was actively moving my body on a daily basis, so much so to the point that my body needed it. Now I've reached the point where we've added weight training. Previously, it was just walking on a treadmill. Then it moved to walking outside. And now I'm walking on the treadmill, walking outside, and I have added weights. Okay. The version of me that I can see for myself in 3 years, in 5 years, in 1 year physically looks different. And so now that means it's time to add pressure to how I'm going to get those results. In the same way that I told one of my friends yesterday, you can have your excuses or you can have results, but you can't have both. If I don't look the way I want to look in 1 year, 3 year, or 5 years, I'm the only person I can blame for that. Because that simply means that instead of adjusting to get what I need or what I desire, I had excuses. All right. So the excuses are mind trash. Your mind trash is nothing but your limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are nothing but beliefs you don't think you deserve. That's it in its simplest form. Okay. And so as we break down and reverse engineer this, I know that that means that by January, for me, remember we're working on my 1 year plan. So by January, December 31st is my cutoff date. That is my line in the sand. I need to be paying for one-on-one training, period. Because I have goals that I want to reach, and there are people who have gone to school that can help me get there faster. Okay. So I need a fitness coach that can help me get to where I want to be. And so I drew the line in the sand, and that by December 31st, that needs to happen. So if you're wondering, well, CCK, why aren't you doing that right now? I'm glad you asked. So as we move into another goal that I have for 5 years from now is that financially I am well off. Financially, I am well versed in my portfolio. That means there are things that I need to be learning right now. And so, right now, I am currently focused on financial planning. I'm learning everything that I can about this. I am in the middle of a situation with taxes that are not my fault. And what I have realized in Googling it is that big companies can get away with things they shouldn't be able to get away with. And so right now I'm learning lessons in business that have made it very clear for me that outsourcing everything isn't the plan for me. I have outsourced bookkeeping my entire entrepreneurship journey. Okay. And this isn't even on my bookkeeper. It has nothing to do with them. They did their job. All of it is correct, except now we're being audited. And so I am not afraid of the audit because I have all the proof to show that things are correct. But what I am learning is that if I were more intimate with my finances, with the way my business was set up, with the way we made the transition from a physical product to a customer to the digital space, if I had been more invested in learning what that looks like, we probably wouldn't be in this situation that I'm currently in. But in the process, I'm learning how to work through it, right? So right now, my focus financially is working through this situation and paying down some debt. I have a 1 year plan, a 3 year plan, and a 5 year plan on where I want to be financially. And so I'm giving myself, it's now October. I'm giving myself from October to December to alleviate myself of a bill so that I'm not adding a bill. So I'm about to go hard and pay off something so that I can then add this to it without me having to pay more money out of pocket. So that is why my line in the sand is December 31st. So that forces me to, number one, work diligently on paying one thing off to eliminate that monthly bill. And then two, I know that this new thing, paying for the coaching sessions with the physical trainer, is half of the bill that I'm about to get rid of. And so, snowball method, I will be able to pull this in, and then I'll be able to take that leftover money that I was already paying and pay it towards something else. So that's why it's set up the way it is. Okay. So those are actionable steps to get me where I need to be. Number one, it eliminates a particular bill. Number two, it gives me freed up income without having to add more income to it to do something that I want to do that will help me out physically. And then I can take the extra money that was going towards that bill that I got rid of and put it towards something else. So boom, there it is. So that's what that looks like when you do your 5 year, your 3 year, your 1 year. Have you figured this out? Have you broken down your life on this way so that you can see your monthly, your weekly, and your daily habits that are going to lead you to the goals that you want? All right. So that's number one, setting your long-term goals anchored in your core values. All right. So number two, you will enhance your intuition by sticking to your core values. Let me break this down for you. So back in 2021, when I was going through a divorce, it was not a terrible divorce. It was very amicable. We parted ways on good terms. While I was in therapy, my therapist was like, "What's wrong? Why? Like, what's happening?" And I said, "I think I'm supposed to feel bad about getting divorced. Like society tells me I should be sad, and I'm not. Society tells me that this should be one of the worst things happening in my life, and it's not." And my therapist, a beautiful Black woman, looked at me through that Zoom camera and said, "You are thriving." And perhaps this is the first time in your life that you are. And I need you to sit in it. And I need you to accept that you're not waiting for the other shoe to drop, that nothing negative is going to happen, that you are thriving and you are making wonderful choices and you are improving and you are healing. And all of those things are going to pay off in the long run. And so I had to trust that what I was feeling was real. That was the first introduction that I can like pinpoint back where I really had to stop and say, you are safe and you can trust yourself. Because what I felt was peace. I felt like I was thriving. I was making more money than I ever made in my life at that time. I was doing things for me. My skin was clear, like literally drinking my water, minding my business. And so the more I've done this, so that was 3 years ago, right? And so the more I have moved through the world, um, I have tapped more into using my core values to align with my intuitive decision making process. So when opportunities show up, some of them look great, some of them don't, right? If you see a red flag, baby, run. Like red flags don't turn green, they just don't. So if you see the red flag, please don't try and stay there and think you're going to fix it and paint it green, because even a green flag that's been painted is still red, love. And so your red flags are not turning green. Okay. Tapping into your intuition means you pay attention to yourself. If you're thirsty, get some water. Don't get some coffee. Don't get a soda. If you feel thirst, drink some water. If you have problems with drinking water, I will also offer this. Here's how my habit started. So the same way at the top of the year, I was like, I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week and I'm going to walk for 10 minutes on the treadmill. The other habit that I instituted at that time was anytime I'm coaching, I am going to drink out of a very specific water bottle. And the only thing that ever goes in that cup is water. If you're watching this, you see my cup. I have been doing this since January. Whenever I'm on a coaching call, whether that's a group coaching call or it is a one-on-one call, I have that cup of water. People who have coached with me know that they are required to have a bottle of water with them on a coaching call. Whenever I take a drink, they take a sip, because it's building the habit, right? And so after months of coaching with me, people just automatically know they're going to be drinking water for that hour that we're talking. And this is totally normal. They don't even pay it any attention. But now they drink water on their own and they don't really think about it, right? And so, but I didn't start by saying I'm going to drink 8 glasses of water a day. I didn't do that because I knew I wasn't going to stick with it. What I said was, whenever I'm doing anything regarding coaching, I will be drinking water. Coaching is my full-time job. So I'm always doing something with coaching, which means I'm always drinking water now, right? And so if you're thirsty, go drink some water. If you are hungry, feed yourself. Don't put it off. If you know that your schedule is busy, start making snacks ahead of time, because that puts you in a habit of making better choices. If you ignore your hunger until the point of no return and then you just like start Uber Eats and things, you are not helping yourself in the process, right? So if you know that, like, okay, I'm not going to have a break between 9 and 12, but historically I'm hungry around 10:30, 11, maybe have a snack available, right? So if you put we're going to literally disrupt, we're creating habits that are going to force us to choose better for ourselves. And so now you've included drinking water. The other piece of that is that means you're peeing all day. If you're peeing all day, you don't have time to gossip. You don't have time to be worried about other people's business. You drink your water and mind your business because you have to pee all day. All right. And so you're drinking your water. Now you have healthy snacks that are just near you because you know the hunger is coming. So you need to feed yourself when you're hungry. If you do just those two simple, really, really basic things, you will begin to understand that your body warns you when it needs something. When you are in danger, your body will let you know. You'll be able to figure it out. One of the things that I used to, I don't want to say suffer with, but maybe deal with was being like, dang, I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew I shouldn't have gone there. I knew I shouldn't have made that decision. I knew I should not have taken that job. That has happened so many times. And when I realized that understanding things in hindsight wasn't the flex I thought it was, and I made the decision to pay attention to the patterns ahead of time, I could predict when things weren't going to work out. And that was another thing I started in January this year was I want to be proactive and not reactive to things in my life. And so I began to pay attention. I began to hear what people actually were saying versus what they were doing. I began to see what people were doing versus what they were saying, right? Because sometimes those things don't align. I began to align myself with people who shared my values um, and didn't want to fix them. I am a Virgo. Virgos love a project, baby. We love to fix people. But on your healing journey, what you learn is that all energy ain't good energy and everybody don't need you to fix them. In understanding this, it became easier for me to decide what was worth my energy. I'm a really good coach because I can unobjectively listen to your story and then tell you how to fix your problems. I've always been able to do that. I'm really, really good at it. But the thing that I had to learn was that everybody doesn't want to be saved. And that was a really hard lesson for me, particularly when all that needed to adjust was their mindset. Just choose a new thought, right? Very simply. Well, instead of thinking this, what if you thought this? And it would easily fix their lives. But what I had to come to accept around, I don't know, maybe April, May of this year is that everybody doesn't want to be saved. When you can outline how you can fix someone's life because you're looking at this based on past experiences as well as what your intuition is telling you. My intuition, I felt triggered every time I was having a call with someone. And I was like, something about this ain't right. Everybody doesn't want to be saved. And my body was telling me, you're wasting your time. My body was telling me they're not being receptive. I've also taken classes and learned how to read body language. I understand nonverbal cues in conversation, right? Those were one of the classes that I took as a coach. Understanding nonverbal communication. Because while your mouth is saying, I want to change, I want to change, I want to change, your body position is saying something totally different. And when those two things don't align, that lets me know you are out of alignment, right? So I can see that in other people, not just in the woo woo, but also in this very natural state of science, psychology. Like I've studied both, and I can see when you are willing and when you actually want something and when you don't. And so I have learned how to lean into that. Even down to, so that's just like, very on the surface type of thing, right? But then I began to look at patterns and I began to look at um, you know, how business owners, like big business, like your Metas and things like that, right? Like how these very large corporations move. And if they allow their network to go down for a number of hours, it's on purpose. It's on purpose. Y'all can call it an outing if you want to. But that happened with Facebook earlier in the year. But in January, I said, I feel like something is coming. And I feel like Facebook is going to go down. I said Facebook or Instagram are going to go down. And that's going to be a day people make money in their inbox. And so I started putting a lot of time and attention into sending emails out this year. And you know what? They went down for like 6 hours. And you know what happened that day? I sent out an email that said, well, since you can't check your social media, you're checking your email. And then I offered people coaching and they signed up. You have to build up to that level of understanding patterns, of being proactive in how you show up in your personal life as well as in your business, in ways that are to your benefit and not your detriment. A lot of this is a pin. We're going to put a pin in this podcast because I got to say this. There are people who have spent so much time rehearsing all of the bad things that could happen that at no point did you stop and say, what happens if this works? So while you have 15 escape plans, 15 exit plans, 15 reasons why it won't work, at what point did you ever stop and say, what if it does? Because if we don't start thinking about what happens if this thing does work out, if we don't start proactively daydreaming, manifesting the positive outcome, your brain is going to go find evidence of every time it hasn't worked. The universe is then going to give you what you asked for. The question that I ask people that I coach with is, where were you available for the chaos? If the only thing you can tell me is that you rehearsed 15 different ways for the thing to go wrong and then the thing went wrong and you felt emboldened to say, I told you it wasn't going to work, I'm going to ask you, at what point did you ever give yourself the opportunity to succeed? Because a lot of times people are not just afraid of failure, they're also afraid of success. And if you are afraid of success, then how are you tapping into your intuition to fully understand that you actually deserve to have that thing that you want, that you are worthy of having that thing that you want? If you never allow yourself to daydream on the goodness of who you could be and what could come from you, then yeah, everything falls to shit every single time, because that is what you were available for. You weren't available for abundance. If your thoughts are not abundant, if the words coming out of your mouth are not abundant, if the plans that you've put in place are simply your exit strategy, at what point did you game plan your success? We can take the pen back out now. All right, so back to enhancing your intuition through your core values. Think about what your core values are. When you start feeling the mind trash, when you're like, I'm not going to do it, it's not going to work, yada, 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 baby, you got to know how to shut that down. If your core values are honesty, transparency, then you need to have an accountability group that you can go be honest and transparent with. You need to have a coach that you can book a one-on-one call with. You need to have someone in your circle who is going to tell you the opposite of whatever you are feeling in order to help you get back into alignment. You should do this frequently. You should check in with yourself regularly to see how your decisions feel in a relationship to your values. If you go back and pull out your list of values, is what you're feeling aligned? 9 times out of 10, if you feel negative, anxious energy around something, it's out of alignment with your values. And then lastly, let's talk about your personal evolution, because I don't want y'all to get, me snatching your edges this entire podcast episode, but I don't tell you how to heal it. So the evolution that comes through understanding your core values does a couple of things. Number one, your intuition heightens because you know what you have time for, what you have the energy for, what you have the capacity for. You know what things you have the capacity for. When you don't have the capacity, you need to be able to verbally state, I do not have the capacity for this right now. And that's the end of the sentence. Like, that's just the end of it. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to go back and forth. I don't have the capacity. Your core values are going to inform who you are becoming. The version of me that I see for myself 5 years from now, she has some different core values than I have. She has honed the core values, and I am just now meeting some of them, right? And so while she's guarded, she's soft. While she is a boss, she does not wear a superhero cape. She's very human. She's very transparent. She doesn't necessarily wear her emotions on her sleeve, but she feels emotions, right? Um, and there's a difference in those things. And so those are things that I continuously work on now. So whenever I feel myself putting up a wall and wanting to shut down completely because that's what I've done historically. I know the version of me that I'm coming into isn't putting up a wall, that she feels safe enough to state, I don't have the capacity for this. And she has surrounded herself by people who won't make her say that. She doesn't have to say that because she's open and she's vulnerable enough that the people who have been allowed into her inner circle know her well enough to say, baby, this is too much for you. And this is not in alignment with your future. This is not yours. Put down that load. Right. But that means I also have to be watching the people who are around me because there's specific core values that they need to have in order to be able to be a part of my inner circle that can help me when times are tough. And so that means you begin watching people. It means you become a silent observer. It means you become curious about those who are near you and who are around you. You're curious, not necessarily overly cautious, right? Because if they're not for you, they'll go away. You can also use this process to develop a deep sense of knowing when you're in and out of alignment with your destiny. So, signs of alignment, the way you know that you are in alignment, you are going to feel ease. You will feel flow. There will be limitless opportunities that all uh, aligned. I mean, the messaging of the opportunities, the people, like y'all are the same person, just in two different skins, right? Like the alignment is undeniable. Ways of knowing when you're out of alignment, you're frustrated, there's resistance. The energy around you is negative, it's suffocating. Um, there's reoccurring obstacles. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, beloved, I need you to not. The world isn't going to bend to what you want in the way that you want it, particularly when it's out of alignment. Will your world conform itself to alignment, ease, flow, abundance, and opportunities? It sure will, but that means you have to have a heart check. It means that you as yourself need to look at who you are, how you show up, how you treat others. What is your energy giving off? How are you radiating in this world? Are you a light or are you darkness? The universe isn't going to realign your life when you are spewing hate, when you are caught up in other people's business, and when you don't show up for yourself in the ways that you show up for others, right? And so you have to continuously learn. Like your healing journey is a journey for a reason. It's not a destination, it's a journey. CCK, what happens if things change? If things change in your life, something unexpected, a loss, a deeply personal loss happens, or a financial situation happens that you feel like you're not going to recover from, right? If these things enter into your stratosphere, I want you to stop and think about the version of you that you want to evolve into after this. One of the things that I had to settle with after the passing of my father 11 months ago was that I will never go back to being who I was. It's not possible because now I am walking through this earth without a daddy. It's literally impossible for me to get back to who I was because she no longer exists. And so I had to think about, who am I in this world without a daddy? What am I calling in for myself? Who do I become on the other side of grief? Because grief is going to fundamentally change you. So, who are you on the other side of it? I made a decision that I wanted to live. I made a decision that I wanted a life of ease. I made a decision that I wanted to give as much of me as humanly possible. That whenever my time came, that I was no longer on this earth, that the memories that people were left with still had impact, still had influence, and still had purpose. And so that meant that I needed to start showing up in the world as though it was my last day. I'm not jumping out of planes, I'm not doing crazy things. But anytime someone encounters me, I want them to remember that that one encounter may have absolutely changed their life. I want them to think about when they encountered me, how I helped them feel better. How, if they encountered me and they were in a dark place, that I left that room brighter, right? That they learned from me how to chase joy. That me sharing my life on Beyonce's internet is giving somebody else hope. That it is showing people that you can move into alignment, that it's showing people that you can have abundance even when you face um, opportunities of growth that come with a little bit of negativity, right? Um, when I think about once we discovered this audit with the IRS, how a former version of me would be losing, I mean, absolutely going batshit crazy. And how right now I am so at peace because I already know that regardless to what happens, I'm okay either way. And this is just a part of the story. When I think about the fact that in November of 2020, my hands just stopped working, I'm a chef. And I can assure you that the version of me that I am now is absolutely light years differently from the version of me that I was back in 2020, because all I kept thinking about was, oh my God, if I close my business, how am I going to survive? I'm in the midst of a pandemic, in the middle of a divorce. How is this going to work? No one is, I'm not going to say no one, people outside of my inner circle, and I could count them all on 10 fingers. Anyone outside of that did not understand what I was going through, nor did they care. And so the community of people that I had around me back in 2020 is not the community of people around me now, because those people didn't show up for me in that season. And so I had to adjust who was around me. You can't change the people around you, change the people around you, right? And so I did that. And now I do checks and balances and make sure that I am in alignment with those who are in my life. I understand now that me going through that experience is what allowed me to become the keynote speaker at CookieCon 4 years later. Like, I see the trajectory of the experience. I see the things that I had to go through. I understand that not being able to write my name for 6 months. When I first went into physical therapy in January of 2021, I could not sign my name on the paper. And they told me to use my left hand and just circle what I could and just scribble on the paper. When I was able to write my name again, not in script, not in cursive, not in calligraphy, because those were all things I did, I printed KIM, and it looked like a kindergartner wrote it. And I cried because I had been unable to write my name, hold an ink pen in my hands, and write anything down for 6 months. And then did I have to take writing classes? Yep. Did I have to pay for some new calligraphy classes to learn how to hold a pen in my hand because they come in different weights? Yes. Did I have to learn how to take notes on paper again? Yes. Does my handwriting look as beautiful now as it did before the incident? No. But it's legible and it's mine, right? And so I had a decision to make. I could either be woe is me, or I could share my story of resilience and quite literally have a line of people waiting once I got off the stage, because my experience mirrors theirs so much and no one talks about it. And now they don't feel alone. And now they understand that there are things they can be doing, that they can keep going, that it will be worth it. But if I had never had that experience, then I would have never been here 4 years later at the right time, at the right place, influencing the right people. And so you have to understand that even when things happen to you that you feel like are out of alignment, if you know that you're moving in alignment in your life, there is ease, there is flow, there are opportunities for you to get better. Then at some point in your life, whatever you're going through is going to help someone else. All in all, to say, using your core values to inform long term goal setting is going to be one of the most beneficial things you will ever do for yourself, because then it's not just some intangible, far out idea. You can reverse engineer it. You can back it up and say, in 5 years, this is who I'm going to be. In 3 years, that means I need to be doing this to make sure that in 5 years, I have this. In 1 year, I need to have this so that it sets me up properly to have this in 3 years so that I can have this in 5 years. And so that means that right now, I need to be doing XYZ in order to be this person in 1 year, to become this person in 3 years, to end up at this goal in 5. Start mapping out that 5 year plan. Step by step, follow the process that I just explained. This is who I'm going to be, and these are the things I need to be doing. Once you map out your 5 year, 3 year, 1 year plan, and the reason I skip a year is in case life happens. You got a little bit of time to make it up. All right. What I want you to do is to then read the book Atomic Habits. I don't know if you can fully understand the breadth and the vastness of building habits if you don't fully understand how they add up. And so reading the book Atomic Habits, if it's a thick book, okay? I have it, and I also have it on Audible. Get it on Audible if you need it, and put it on 1.2 so that you can get through the book. Listen to it when you're in the car. Give up the radio and listen to the book. Give up your favorite podcast for a bit, not this one, and listen to the book, right? Once you do this, once you fully understand how implementing small changes, y'all, not I'm going to completely go cold turkey and not do this, that, and the third. Don't do that to yourself. That's not sustainable. Something very small, very tangible. The habit may not be. So here's one of the things for me. The habit of going to the gym 3 times a week for 10 minutes. At one point, the habit was putting on gym clothes. That was a habit. If I put the gym clothes on, I was going to the gym. Well, once we made it through that part, because I could put the gym clothes on, but then I stopped. I wasn't going to the gym directly in the way I needed to. So then the habit became I was walking across the lawn where I used to live and scanning uh, my telephone against the keypad. That became the habit. Because if I did that, as soon as I heard that click from the lock, I knew it was go time. Your habit may not be the action. Your habit may be the thing that triggers the action. But again, if you go listen to the book Atomic Habits, or if you read the book Atomic Habits, you will be able to come up with your own things to implement these small changes. Because then once you do them repeatedly, they just become a part of your routine. Right? And now these are habits that are in your routine and you're doing it all the time. Once you begin doing this, I want you to make sure that you're reflecting on where you are. Like 6 months from now, I have a very very clear picture of what my life will look like in 6 months, 9 months, and then on my 45th birthday. I have a very clear picture of what my life looks like for the next 12 months. I also know that in order for me to have what I am calling in 6 months from now, the next 6 months are going to be work. It means that my time will no longer be spent reading 12, 13 books a month, and that I'm focused on six. I have 6 books for the next 6 months that I am focused on reading, digesting, integrating into my life in order to grow my coaching business, right? Because in my 1 year plan, my coaching business needs to be at a certain point. And so I've already backed it up. I've already done it. And I know that for the next 6 months, I am going to have to give up a little bit of my enjoyment because this is a season of learning. This is a season of probably pruning, and it's also a season of growth. This is definitely going to be a season of leveling up. I think that my mindset is pretty good. It is above most. But if I want to run a company that makes 8 figures, baby, that's a whole different mindset, right? Like that's a whole different mindset. That's a completely different type of CEO than somebody trying to make $100,000 a year. I don't want to be a 6 figure earner. Okay. 5 years from now, I need to be an 8 figure earner, which means 3 years from now, I need to be a 7 figure earner. I've already made 6. We taking it up a notch. And so because of that, that's going to require me to show up in life a little bit differently. And I'm very aware. And I've accepted it. And I already have a start date. I start October 24th. I know, random, right? But that's the day class starts for me. More continuing education. That is a class day. And I know that starting October 24th through May, when I do my final, I'm giving myself to the cause. Okay. I'm giving myself to the cause. The cause comes first. And I've done this a couple of times where I was focused on school at one point. I'm focused on learning. I'm focused on building. And that's where I am right now. And so I know that I have from now, I have a week. I have 1 week to get it together. So any books that I have on my shelf, I'm like, oh my God, I have to read this. That book is being read over the course of the next week because after that, I'm shelving it. I'm shelving it until May. And luckily for me, the next book that is like the most important thing I absolutely must read, it doesn't come out until May 13th. And so I've already pre-ordered it because future me deserves that as a congratulations for completing this thing that you've been doing for the last 6 months. It will absolutely be my treat. It will be a delight to be able to read it. If you've listened to my podcast, you know how obsessed I am with Kennedy Ryan. And I've already pre-ordered my copies of her next book coming out. And it's going to come out in May, literally like a couple of days after I finish my final for these new coaching classes. You have got to figure out who you were becoming and then figure out how to become that person. Me sacrificing a little bit of time, a little bit of energy to redirect it. I'm not going to even say sacrificing, me redirecting my focus for 6 months in order to become the version of me I want to become in 5 years feels worth it. It feels absolutely worth it. And so if you were trying to figure out how do I do this, like how I know where I'm trying to go, but I know I don't have the accountability to make it there. I know I don't have the resources, the tools, the people who are in my life are not going to support this. I need help. I want you to look in the show notes. Okay. I have a group coaching program and we help you through that. There are people who took a chance on me back in January when I was like, I think I'm going to launch this coaching program called Emergence, but it's not just business coaching. You got to deal with you in the process because I think that as entrepreneurs, we try and find work-life balance and you're doing all this stuff for your business, but are you working on your personal relationships? Do the people in your family like you? Do the people you go home to every day enjoy you when you're there? Are you balancing out your life? It doesn't have to be 50-50, but do you feel like your life has purpose? Or are you just out here making money? Are you chasing money? Are you hustling? That's not what we do in Emergence. We are manifesting lives with ease. And so we walk through processes on how do you do that. I know what the hustle life looked like. The hustle life put me in a situation where I had to close my business. I don't hustle. Okay. CCK does not hustle. I don't even like to use the word. If it's not my thing. Okay. I will absolutely be very strategic in what I'm doing and live a life of ease while also having all the things that I want. And so if you feel like that is in alignment with where you're going, then I want you to come and join Emergence. We started already, but that's okay, love. All right. You still get all the information. Everything is, I have systems in place in my business that support people coming in whenever they come in. What I can tell you is this: there is a particular type of coach that I am evolving into that will 100% be creating people or be influencing people, helping people to make multi-millions of dollars. I already know that for myself. I already know this is the route that we're going. If you are someone who feels called in their destiny and aligned to not struggling, not having to work order to order, invoice to invoice. You want actual abundance. You are in business for yourself, with yourself, so that you can have more time on your hands, but you realize you traded your 40-hour-a-week job for 83 hours a week as an entrepreneur. If that's where you are, and you need a support network of people who are going to be there for you and they're going to hold you accountable and they're going to walk you through things and help you do it, then I want you to look in the show notes and I want you to come join us in Emergence. If you are listening to this and you can't click through because you're in your car, no problem. CoachChefKim.com/emergence. That's it. Very simply. Okay. You watching on YouTube, click it down below. CoachChefKim.com/emergence. Come join us. Come join us. You can see the testimonials of the people who have gone through the program. They are still there. Once you're in it, you're in it. So the people who started in January and have seen exponential growth in their business, they still in it. They still come to our weekly calls. They are there to help you. They are there to support you. They are there to root for you. We are building a community of entrepreneurial leaders who are going to defy the odds. And with a coach like me that has the audacity to believe that not only will she succeed, but that every single person attached to me will succeed, there's not one person that has invested anything in me since January of this year that has not seen a return on their investment. There's not one person that'll tell you that, because I know it's not true, and so do they. I take my job very seriously. I stay in alignment. And if I'm in alignment, even if you get out of alignment, I can help you move back into it. It's almost like being a chiropractor before your brain. It is what it is. Listen, the doors are open. We would love for you to come and join us in Emergence. It is, your investment is only $150 a month as of right now, as of October 2024. I can tell you it will go up. In January, it will be a completely different price. I already know it will be, based on the coaching program that I'm joining. I can 100% tell you the price will never be this ever again. So if you're someone who needs that, come and join us. If not, baby, it's cool. Tell somebody else you know who might need it. As always, please make sure that you subscribe to us on wherever you are listening. If you are watching us on YouTube, please give us a like. Please leave a comment. I'm doing the things, y'all. We are finally here on the YouTubes. We're doing the things. Make sure you guys are coming to join the community. If you're not quite ready for group coaching yet, but you still want to join the community, you can join us in the shift, CoachChefKim.com/shift, where we do monthly coaching calls. This month's coaching call yesterday was on core values. There will be another one next month. If you want to be a part of those, they are totally free. Make sure you join us in the shift so that you can get those notifications if you are not on my email list. And I guess I'll talk to you guys next week. Stay sweet, friends.